Through the barren intellectual wasteland. Change the World Productions, bringing you stories that Hollywood cannot tell. The evil ultra-rich want to make us mindless, addicted, drugged, buying servants. This powerful ultra-rich organization of money and power control act as a shadow government.
A shadow organization consisting of leaders in world government and the private sector. The world you live in is the world they want you to think you live in. They start wars, create chaos. Their alliance affects sea change in every aspect of human life. The value and distribution of commodities, money, weapons, water, fuel, the food we eat to live, the information we rely on to tell us who we are.
We're going to talk about the evil ultra-rich through time, but let's start with how they hate and fear equality.
Begin with equality. That's the origin, isn't it? That balance, that's fairness.
People are created by education. Until our education is equal, we do not have equality.
That's justice.
In return for his fight for equality, Lincoln was killed by the bullet from a bigot. Some people believe that there was an organization behind this. No proof was ever found, no evidence retained. The flame of Lincoln's spirit, the flame of equality in his search, lives on.
They speedily pass away.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt had an idea of sharing.
Certain economic truths have become accepted as self-evident. A second Bill of Rights, under which a new basis of security and prosperity can be established for all, regardless of station or race or creed. Among these are the right to a useful and remunerative job in the industries or shops or farms or mines throughout the nation. The right to a good education.
The right to an equal economic public education. This is very important.
All of these rights spell security.
FDR wanted to end destitution and homelessness and basically make America a land of equality where the bounty would be shared. But the ultra-rich don't want to share. After giving this address for his second Bill of Rights, under mysterious conditions, FDR died. The secret society was well defined by President JFK. He uncovered a plot to enslave every man, woman, and child, and he tells us about
it. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
The President of the United States found that there was a plot to enslave the people. Kennedy spoke out against this evil ultra-rich force, this secret society. He also spoke out in favor of equal economic education, that we should have equal institutions, and especially education institutions. And because of that, or whatever, he was shot. Later, on his deathbed, a government agent will confess that he was killed for his beliefs in equal economic education. Here's Walter Cronkite reporting the news.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
President Eisenhower warned us.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Watergate was way over and forgotten. All talked about. In fact, it was all over. And in a landslide election, President Nixon won, and once re-elected, he came up with a new idea of education.
I shall propose a companion measure, the Equal Educational Opportunities Act of 1972. This act would require that every state or locality grant equal educational opportunity to every person, regardless of race, color, or national origin. For the first time in our history, the cherished American ideal of equality of educational opportunity would be affirmed in the law of the land by the elected representatives of the people in Congress.
Yes, Richard Nixon came up with the idea of an equal economic education, an equality of education. And this was headline news, but there was an evil ultra-rich that dusted off Watergate and brought it up into the courts again to try to get him to resign, which they did. The evil power of the ultra-rich profit over people.
People think it matters who occupies that house. It doesn't. Multinational corporations and criminals run the world. In 1982, 7 people in Chicago were killed by an over-the-counter drug laced with potassium cyanide. The company's market share went from 35 to 8. Chernobyl? Deliberate and malevolent actions taken by corporations to protect their vital interests. Nothing happens by chance.
Investment in military technology peaked under President Reagan, who thought of spending itself as a weapon. The idea? Bankrupt the Soviet Union with massive programs like the Strategic Defense Initiative, better known as Star Wars.
The evil ultra-rich saw an opportunity to steal money from the Pentagon. It's apparent to us that no plane hit the Pentagon on 9/11.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And amazingly, that exact place that, quote, plane hit was where all the computers were stored for what Rumsfeld talked about.
See that it looks an awful lot like a missile. Here's a little government animation of what happened. Notice how the wings just kind of disappear. Those wings are very solid objects. They don't just disappear. They're actually stronger than most of the other parts of the plane. They leave damages, and to see no damages where the wings hit. Well, come on. What do you want us to believe? How can we possibly believe? $2.3 trillion is missing. No plane really hit the Pentagon on 9/11. Now, it's kind of obvious, from the details. The CNN man was there, and let's look at what he said. And here's an eyewitness account. He got there real quick, but this was later removed.
My close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual site of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around, which would indicate that the entire plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon and then caused the side to collapse. Now, even though if you look at the pictures of the Pentagon, you see that the floors have all collapsed, that didn't happen immediately. It wasn't until almost about 45 minutes later that the structure was weakened enough that all of the floors collapsed.
We talked about $2.3 trillion missing that our friend, said was missing. And then this accident happens at the same place where the records are kept. Kind of weird. After the events of 9/11, the evil ultra-rich saw an opportunity for them to listen to all electronic communications, all emails, all telephone calls, all bank transactions. They'd be able to listen if they passed the right laws. The greedy, evil, ultra-rich that do so many damages and kill so many people. Big tobacco, over 150 million people dead. This horrendous disease caused by a substance that is just completely addictive. And our young kids become addicted. It's a highly addictive substance that just takes over your soul and does absolutely nothing. And yet this substance controls the prosecutors to look the other way as children smoke. And billions have been killed by big sugar and sugar drinks. Billions. It's incredible, the horrendous effect. And yet we look the other way. We just watch. Runs over. The damages from the synthetic pharmaceutical companies. Horrendous as we look at the complete damages. And the damages of war. The incredible damages of war. All for the name of profit. As that so much of this is the name of profit over people. Incredible damages. And yet, we the people can do something. You can speak out. You can write letters. You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to tolerate them killing naturopaths. Evil big oil. I'm an oil man. Yes, evil big oil destroying the planet, putting humanity at risk, filling up the atmosphere with carbon dioxide, eating up the oxygen, creating the petrochemical damage and toxicity. And we must not forget the destruction of the planet, the destruction of humanity. And don't forget evil big meat contributing to destroying the climate. We have to understand all the powers of this evil forces. The evil ultra-rich saw how they could set up banking and financing.
There was a company so powerful on the planet today that it affects almost every single aspect of our lives. A company that is so rich that they hold more assets than the GDP of every single country in the world except for two.
Yes, one overt company larger than most of the world's economies. It's incredible. Now, to get an idea just what $1 trillion is, this might give you an idea about $1 trillion.
Company that is the single largest investor in the destruction of our planet's forests and the largest money contributor to the fossil fuels industry.
Yes, this company is heavily invested in fossil fuels, which are putting species at risk of extinction. And that includes people. People are at risk of extinction as well.
Scary fact is that this company does exist, and you have most likely never heard its name before. The company is BlackRock. Even if you tried your absolute hardest, it would almost be impossible for you to stop giving them money.
Yes, this is an overt company, but well hidden, not really much talked about. It has got its fingers in all financing pies. Hard to keep your money out of it.
First and foremost, BlackRock is the largest asset management firm on the planet. They hold stocks, ownership of companies, property, and a ton of other stuff, of course with the main purpose of driving profit for themselves and their shareholders. And they own a part of almost everything. And when I say everything, I really mean everything.
They're even the #1 investor in Bitcoin. They have their fingers in all different pies, controlling financing and banking.
Names on the screen are the 7 biggest banks in America. And in some way or another, if you are an American, likely connected to one of these banks. But who owns these banks? Well, in one way or another, BlackRock does. BlackRock is either the largest or one of the largest shareholders in all of these 7 banks.
Extreme power, extreme financing, and yet hardly any of us know anything about them.
Places like America, it has been reported that BlackRock and pension funds are paying up to 50% higher than the asking price of single-family homes in the attempt to buy as much of the real estate market as they can, and in turn massively driving up the prices of real estate and lowering the chances of the everyday person like you and I to buy those homes.
This is a big game of Monopoly that they're playing, and we're not winning. We're hardly even in the game. They control all the financing of our properties.
Vox is actually sponsored for a very long time by Wall Street bank Goldman Sachs. And on top of that, BlackRock actually owns a part of Vox by owning shares in the parent company of Vox called Comcast. So who can you trust? But it does get even crazier than this.
It does get crazier. And I hope that they realize that you can't eat money. There's something going on here that we're going to be exploring. This problem with the evil ultra-rich.
It means, by extension, that BlackRock also owns a lot more than what appears first on paper. And remember the example that I gave of Goldman Sachs sponsoring Vox? Well, considering that BlackRock owns a part of Goldman Sachs, they could also be considered as a sponsor of Vox.
Well, here's some of the founders that are still there, but I'm sure that these are not really the money people, because the money people behind this are covert.
Chances are BlackRock actually owns a portion of one of these news outlets. Fox News, the New York Times, CNN, the ABC, NBC, the New York Post, Sky News, The Sun, and on and on and on. In one way or another, BlackRock owns a part of basically every media organization or major news outlet on the planet.
Through BlackRock, the evil ultra-rich has taken control, complete control, of the world's news media. And nothing we can do, all the protest, fall on empty ears. They control what we see in the news.
Social media as well. Twitter, Facebook, which means by extension WhatsApp and Instagram. Yep, BlackRock is one of the biggest owners of these platforms as well. In fact,
everything in the media, movies even, TV, influenced by BlackRock. They make sure that what they want not to be seen won't be seen. We see our next generation coming up. But still, the real powers behind this, we're not going to see these people.
In fact, it's estimated that in one way or another, BlackRock and Vanguard, which is the second largest asset management in the world, owns part of more than 90% of the media that we consume on a daily basis.
These people have a very heavy influence on the schools, on the television, on the movies, on the news and the media. Everything goes through their filter. We see what they want us to see. Stories that offend them will not be seen.
According to the data, BlackRock is the largest investor in fossil fuels on the planet, as well as the main contributor to money flowing into the destruction of the planet's forests and ecosystems, including deforestation in the Amazon.
Yes, BlackRock is the world's largest investor in fossil fuels, so it has to try to protect its income and discourage any ideas of growing oil. We try ideas of boycotting BlackRock, but that's impossible, and they have so much money, it doesn't faze them at all. Now let's take a deeper look and look at how the evil ultra-rich has used a crack in the Pentagon to steal massive funds.
$21 trillion that has gone unaccounted for at the Pentagon. That's right, trillion with a T. And I feel like every time this topic is even mentioned, it should come with like a little suffix. $21 trillion!
Oh my God, the Pentagon cannot account for 21 trillion with a T, trillion dollars, not a typo. Over $256,000 per American family. Oh my God.
All of that, still not a word from Congress, not a word from the hacks at your mainstream media outlets. The Pentagon had failed its first ever audit. The first time the Pentagon had ever been audited, even though it was legally required to do so since the early 90s. But audits are hard work. Most defense officials aren't business experts, and to some, bookkeeping and other management operations just aren't a priority in wartime, which, since September 11th, has been a permanent state. Yeah!
Even though Donald Rumsfeld reported that $2.5 trillion before 9/11.
For decades, the DOD's leaders and accountants have been perpetrating a gigantic unconstitutional accounting fraud, deliberately cooking the books to mislead the Congress and drive the DOD's budgets ever higher. DOD has literally been making up numbers in its annual financial reports to Congress, representing trillions of dollars worth of seemingly non-existent transactions. According to government records and interviews with current and former DOD officials, congressional sources, and independent experts. Healthcare, education, job creation, climate action, infrastructure, modernization, and more. Indeed, the Pentagon's accounting fraud amounts to theft on a grand scale. Theft not only from America's taxpayers, but also from the nation's well-being and its future. A recent report from the DOD on the OIG website summarizes unsupported adjustments for fiscal year 2017. However, this document differs from all previous reports in that all the numbers relating to the unsupported adjustments were redacted. That is, all the relevant information was blacked out. And there it is. Even the title. They had to hit the title. That these unaccounted trillions at the Pentagon could help pay for Medicare for all. So clearly things are ramping up. People are finding out about the $21 trillion. And that means it is now time for the true corporate hacks to jump in and drag everyone who dares speak out about this issue. You know how you can tell for sure that you're a nitwit spraying idiocy like a super soaker? When you find yourself saying the phrase, $21 trillion accounting error. Error? Yeah, and Bill Cosby just got the drinks mixed up. This is not simply a matter of boring accounting. Trillions in unaccounted outlays, if that's what's involved here, is trillions of our tax dollars being spent without our knowledge. If that's the case, we're talking about the biggest government financial deception in the history of the country. The Defense Department is actually an organized human murder company, and the $21 trillion of adjustments is actually massive fraud, which amounts to the largest theft ever perpetrated against the American people.
Now, this recording of the $21 trillion, this is years and years ago. Today, people think it's much closer to $40 trillion what's been taken. And the evil ultra-rich is concealed and dissenters are silenced as they control everything that we see. And they tell us what to believe.
Mr. President, the American people will buy whatever we tell them to. You know that. Mr. President, the American people will buy whatever we tell them to. You know that.
The evil ultra-rich can buy out almost anybody and silence dissenters. But not George Carlin.
This country is big time, pig time. Forget the bald eagle. You know what the national emblem of this country ought to be? A big bowl of macaroni and cheese. These people, These people are efficient, professional, compulsive consumers. It's their civic duty, consumption. It's the new national pastime. Fuck baseball, it's consumption. The only true, lasting American value that's left, buying things. Buying things. People spending money they don't have on things they don't need. Money they don't have on things they don't need. So they can max out their credit cards and spend the rest of their lives paying 18% interest on something that costs $12.50. And they didn't like it when they got it home anyway. Not too bright, folks. Not too fucking bright. But if you talk to one of them about this, if you isolate one of them, you sit them down rationally, and you talk to them about the low IQs and the dumb behavior and the bad decisions, right away they start talking about education. That's the big answer to everything. Education. They said we need more money for education. We need more books, more teachers, more classrooms, more schools. We need more testing for the kids. You say to them, well, you know, we've tried all of that, and the kids still can't pass the test. They say, oh, don't you worry about that. We're going to lower the passing grades. And that's what they do in a lot of these schools now. They lower the passing grades so more kids can pass. More kids pass, the school looks good, everybody's happy, the IQ of the country slips another 2 or 3 points, and pretty soon all you'll need to get into college is a fucking pencil. Got a pencil? Get the fuck in there, it's physics. Then everyone wonders why 17 other countries graduate more scientists than we do. Education. Politicians know that word, they use it on you. Politicians have traditionally hidden behind 3 things: the flag, the Bible, and children. No child left behind. No child left behind. Oh, really? Well, it wasn't long ago you were talking about giving kids a head start. Head start, left behind. Someone's losing fucking ground here. But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets.
You know, Curtis, when I first became a judge, I knew there were certain people in town I wasn't supposed to touch. I knew that if I was to remain a judge, this was so. But how in God's name do you expect me to look the other way at the murder of 6 million people?
All judges know the rules. And the evil ultra-rich, they own the media and they control how the small minds think.
And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. And by the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it. Yeah, the public sucks. There's a nice campaign slogan for somebody. The public sucks, fuck hope. Fuck hope. Because if it's really just the fault of these politicians, then where are all the other bright people of conscience? Where are all the bright, honest, intelligent Americans ready to step in and save the nation and lead the way? We don't have people like that in this country. Everybody's at the mall, scratching his ass, picking his nose, taking his credit card out of his fanny pack and buying a pair of sneakers with lights in them.
So many people really do nothing. They just sit back and watch other people and hope that somebody else will defend them. Massive amounts of money have been stolen from many different places around the world. Hard to understand what $1 trillion is. Now here's $10 trillion from Zimbabwe money. It's worth about $4. But if we get to our money in dollars, if you had $1 trillion on the day that Jesus was born, and you spent $1 million every day for the last 2,021 years, you would still have over 100 years to spend $1 million a day. That's how much $1 trillion is. Now imagine $21 trillion. Now imagine $40 trillion. You can get an idea of how large this evil ultra-rich is. This really isn't one person or one organization. It's a group. You see, there's an evil, arrogant, secret society of handshakes. And even if these people are caught, no court will take the case. No prosecutor will prosecute. No witness will appear. No evidence will survive. They have that much. They can get away with almost anything. Is this the most powerful force on the planet?
There are no sides. There's no Sunnis and Shiites. There's no Democrats and Republicans. There's only haves and have-nots.
Yes, these ultra-rich corporations want profit over people. And they want to have a servant class. They don't really want equality. So I've been trying to understand this evil ultra-rich for many, many years as I've made many different movies about this. I started to really think, is this just profit? What do we know about the evil ultra-rich? Well, they hate equality. They feed on war. They destroy the natural resources. They cause addiction so that they can profit from the addiction. Because they cause disease. They want to cause disease so that they can profit from treating disease, from disease care. Not health care, disease care. They hate life and want synthetics. So as I started to see this, I started to see, is this just a profit over people? Because if we looked at such a thing as a veggie burger, the amount of money that it costs to grow a cow, to raise beef and chickens, it's absurd amount of money. It would be much, much, much cheaper with less liability to grow the veggies close by, locally, and then make the veggie burger. You could make so much more profits by veggie burgers. People will buy them. Biofuel is cheaper, cleaner, scrubs the CO2, makes oxygen. It's cheaper, it's cleaner to grow the oil. And we could farm our medicines. There's no reason we couldn't farm our medicines. So I started to realize that this evil ultra-rich, it's not just about profit. There seems to be something that they hate about life. They hate about life. And that these evil ultra-rich corporations seem to have a true evil. And they really do seem to want to kill people. They really do fear nature, fear life. And so much of these businesses designed around killing people needlessly. I thought it was just profit over people, but there seems to be something else, something more inherently evil. We need to think about this and do something.
This whole thing sucks. You know,
I mean, it all could have been avoided so incredibly easy. I mean, none of this had to happen.
You're such a coward. I can't believe they let you wear a uniform.
We got haves, we got have-nots. We got white collar, blue collar, and then we got no collar. Inside there, we got surgery, we got outpatient surgery, and we got out-of-luck surgery.
Good people, by allowing evil to take place, perpetuate it. There's a lot of good people who work in this building, and there's a lot of evil that continues to be perpetuated.
Evil triumphs only when good men do nothing.
No! We walked away. We lived our lives in fear.
Yes, so many people live in fear, afraid to do something, afraid to participate in life.
They say evil prevails when good men fail to act. What they ought to say is, evil prevails.
The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
Evil can succeed when good people do nothing. It is time for good people to do something. Tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Thomas Jefferson's wise words, trying to call people out. You see, what we need is a free press, freedom of speech. It really is the heart. And in order to really do that, we have to be able to speak. Because silence in the face of evil is evil itself. We need to reach out and find ourselves a voice and help defend others as well as ourselves. Because silence in the face of evil is evil. And if we look at all the evil in the world today, and yes, I am the man who left America to find freedom, who's no longer a man. And if everyone thought the other guy would fight, then nobody would. It's time for you to do something. And you know what you can do? You can share, and you can care. You could share this video. You could share links to our information. You could reach out and help other people to find out and uncover some of these truths. You could write letters to the congressmen, write letters to the prosecutors. You could write letters to the drug companies. You could write letters to the tobacco companies, to the media people. You could write letters to all the people of the media and help all the people of the media become aware. Become aware. You see, yes, as we have seen, there really is an evil ultra-rich corporation. Profit over people. Greed, avarice, more. The performance of more, the insatiable desire for profit, etc. That's what drives these people. Not compassion, not brotherhood, not intellect, not sharing and caring in the planet.
We need more understanding of human nature, because the only real danger that exists is man himself. He is the great danger, and we are pitifully unaware of it. We know nothing of man, far too little. His psyche should be studied, because we are the origin of all coming evil.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
But when greed is uncontrolled and it starts to kill people or jeopardize the planet, jeopardizing freedom, equality, then something needs to be done. We must stop this avalanche of greed.
The richest 1% of this country owns half our country's wealth, $5 trillion.
A very small band of the world's wealthiest people own as much as half the world's population, according to a report by the aid group Oxfam. It says 62 of the super-rich own as much as 3.5 billion people. For example, that means with a net worth of around $79 billion, Microsoft founder Bill Gates has the same wealth as the world's smallest 41 economies put together.
These are the rich people we told you about, who want to be liked, who actually record their taxes. But there are other rich people, secret, hidden.
Oxfam also estimated that $7.6 trillion of that wealth was in offshore tax havens, depriving governments of $190 billion in revenue.
But actually, over the last couple of years, $1 quadrillion has been stolen and hidden, sequestered. Money that really isn't logged into the system, where people don't know about it.
Deborah Hardoon is Oxfam's deputy head of research. She says the culture of wealth inequality needs to be reversed.
It makes no economic or moral sense to have so much wealth concentrated in the hands of so few. At a time when we're really needing to fight the battle against extreme poverty, we really need to reverse this trend where actually most of the proceeds of growth and most of the accumulation of wealth is going straight to the richest people.
There are so many people, so rich, they are above the law, or at least they think they are above the law, but they're not above your public opinion, and you could do something to reach and change the world.
So tell me, Gordon, when does it all end, huh? How many yachts can you water ski behind? How much is enough?
It's not a question of enough, pal.
See, I find that everybody has a number, and it's usually an exact number, so what is yours?
More.
Yes, more is a pathological sickness. It really is, and you could do something. You could change things. You could write letters to the people who could have an effect to help change this world. By watching this movie, studying these things, your public opinion and your buying dollars could help change the world. Greed, power, money. This has made an incredible, very small 1% of the ultra-rich, and an evil ultra-rich sometimes, because they can kill people, do things. They feel that they're above the law, they can do things above the law. We must be able to stop this as a human race to save humanity. Let's learn more about how to do that in the next part. So is this evil ultra-rich the most powerful force on the planet? Is it? Well, Victor Hugo said, "There's one thing stronger than all the armies. The strongest force is an idea whose time has come." It's an idea that we must expose these people and share and care and voice our ideas, because our ideas are bulletproof. Spread this around and let's deal with the evil ultra-rich.